Breaking today. King Charles's meeting with Prince Harry wasn't as it seemed, with the duplicitous Duke given the cold shoulder during a very short meeting with no special treatment, where he was even forced to drive through the public entrance rather than being given the special passage that Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, was allowed to use just 20 minutes before his arrival. And if you look at this picture from Meghan's mole, which juxtaposes Prince Harry's face arriving at Clarence House to that of him leaving, certainly it is clear that he wasn't happy with the outcome. So we're learning quite a lot about actually what went down in that meeting. Lady Colin Campbell reporting here on Outspoken that Prince Harry was in the room for less than half an hour. Even Woke ITV, major allies of Prince Harry, say the meeting only went on for 45 minutes. Then, when you look at exactly what went down and Charles's schedule, let's take this from The Sun, for example, which reports on the private tea reunion. The schedule was absolutely fascinating and did not suggest that Charles wanted to spend any real quality time with Harry, because look at this. He attended the Privy Council meeting from 3:45 to 4:15, then an investiture with 95-year-old Holocaust survivor Manfred Goldberg from 4:15 to 5 p.m. Harry arrived through the Clarence House gates at 5:21 p.m. Charles then began a meeting with an Australian dignitary at 6:10 p.m. and Harry was seen driven away at 6:14 p.m. Yesterday, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, was seen leaving Clarence House just 20 minutes before Harry arrived. Tellingly, Harry and his driver, Barack Obama's former bodyguard, Christopher Sanchez, were made to use the visitors' entrance, and they were not driven in through the gate on the Mall, which was used earlier by the King and Sophie and is for members of the royal family. Ouch. That's got to hurt. Rafe Hadelman-Koo. The optics of this, I think, from King Charles have maybe been more clever than I initially believed. What I will say, and I'm going to be very honest about this, I still believe the monarch has made a huge mistake. I think Harry is using this meeting for commercial gain. He needs proximity to the royal family to try and get these big deals in America. And we know that he is not only morally bankrupt at the moment, but financially bankrupt too. And I totally agreed with William's position, which is that this was a man, just like the Duke of Windsor before him, who deserved to stay in exile for the rest of his life. However, Rafe, this was not the choreography of a meeting of a loving father wanting to spend quality time with his darling son. He was treated like a sort of low-level dignitary coming in for the lowest amount of access. And we're also told that Queen Camilla was there and that Charles had no one-on-one time with Harry whatsoever. So even though the mainstream media, Rafe, are trumpeting this idea of this being the big royal reunion, actually, was Charles sending a bit of a message that this is, I guess, a very tentative start? Can you believe that more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed? So please do me a huge favor, click the subscribe button now, turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos.
That's precisely what it is. And the use of the term low-level dignitary is quite correct, because along with the ignominy of having to enter not through the entrance that other members of the royal family use, he also had to suffer the indignity of being stuck in the traffic of London due to the London tube strike, where he wasn't given the blue light police escort that would have been able to cut through the traffic. He had to deal with it just as any other Londoner would have to deal with it. And he was...
If we're stuck in traffic, you bloody better be too, Harry, because we don't even want you here.
Exactly. So it began a lot longer. So he should have got some knowledge as to what was awaiting him. And remember, the last time that Prince Harry was in the country, he wanted to have a meeting with his father, we're told, and the king said that he wasn't available. This time, he is available, but only for a very small amount of time. It seems to me clearly that His Majesty or his advisors are only doing these things very incrementally, step by step. And I'm sure that that meeting that was held between Prince Harry's chief aides and the King's chief aides very publicly on the balcony of the Royal Overseas League Club, looking over St James's Park, included some requirements from the Duke of Sussex that he wouldn't talk about any conversation that he had with his father. I suppose they're waiting to see whether he still holds true to that,
Yes, this
because
is a test.
by past performance, he certainly has been very free in speaking when it comes to revealing conversations, and the level of trust has been completely eradicated. So you can completely understand why the king will be reticent to speak anything other than the briefest of niceties to his estranged son.
This is a test, absolutely. There was no trust in that meeting, from what I'm told. Absolutely. Charles's warning, you keep this between us and let's see if you can really do that, because we know Harry's going to immediately get on the phone to Meghan Markle. And so even if Harry stays quiet, will she? Now, look, I want to show you some reporting from Tom Sykes. He's the European editor at large for the Daily Beast, but also runs the Royalist blog on Substack. And this was from there. And his contention, Rafe, is that the reason Charles actually ended up going through with this meeting is because he is desperate for a reunion with Archie and Lily, the two children, his two grandchildren, who, of course, he hasn't seen in years. Watch this.
Is where does it go from here? Like, it's definitely not going to end with Harry getting his patronages back, getting a palace back, becoming a member of the working royal family again. Like, we all know that that is not going to happen. But it's also a completely pointless meeting if it doesn't wind up with Charles meeting his grandchildren. And that has to be the end game here. I would suggest, if we can't get to a stage where a man can see his grandchildren in the last years of his life, I think that's just a really tragic kind of indictment on all of them. This person says, I don't begrudge Charles for seeing his son, but I hope he isn't bringing him back. I think that probably sums up what most people think about Charles. I think that most people think, yeah, we don't begrudge Charles seeing his son. Of course we don't. Of course we don't. But how people feel about Harry, I think, is a different matter.
But Rafe, isn't there a major problem with this? That Harry has made it clear, and he did so in the BBC interview too, that he has no intention of Meghan, Archie or Lily coming back to the country until he receives the full security detail, which the government will not give him for very good reason. And Charles will not get involved and overrule his government, which would plunge us into a constitutional crisis. So we're still at loggerheads.
And I would hate to think that that's also the thinking of Prince Harry, that he thinks perhaps he could use his children as some sort of bargaining chip.
But he is.
To get something with. I would
That
hope
is
to think
what
that
he's
that's
doing,
not.
Rafe.
Yes, well,
But he just is.
And this
He's
is the point.
dangling those children, Rafe. And I think it's sick given the king's health. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that is exactly what he is doing.
You have to remember, of course, this is a royal family, and the king, of course, is and always has been a doting father. And aside from all of the politics and all the drama, this is a man who has always, throughout this terrible period of estrangement, has always left the door open, has always, as a Christian monarch, has always hoped that his son would prove to be that prodigal son. And he did extend olive branches repeatedly, obviously. All of those were spurned. And now, of course, the king is not in great health still undergoing weekly cancer treatment, never seen one of his grandchildren. So, yes, you would hope that there would be some sort of compromise where Prince Harry would, bring them over out of nothing more than just decency and love for his father to enable that to happen. And we can just hope that it happens sooner rather than later.
Well, indeed, because, of course, the other thing that Tom Sykes says, Rafe, is that all of this has to be seen in the context of the fact, and the mainstream media don't like to discuss this, and of course I like to do so sensitively, but the fact that Charles is dying. Watch this.
as far as I can tell, people are pretty hostile to Harry and are concerned on the King's behalf that he's going to be exploited, basically, and that Harry's going to reveal secrets from the meeting. Don't forget, it was only in May, 2nd of May this year, that Harry went on television and said, "My father won't speak to me. He could fix my whole security problem at the drop of a hat, and I don't know how long he has left." Now, that was an incredibly inflammatory thing to say. The palace has done nothing for the past year. They go, "The King's fine, the King's fine, the King's great, the King's fantastic, the King's never been better." Even though we can all see that, Charles is losing weight. He doesn't look great. He's very tired when he's out and about. He looks very tired when he's out and about on jobs. And we've been through it all before with the Queen, right? We were all told for years, there's nothing wrong with the Queen. There's nothing wrong with the Queen. And we could see the weight falling off her in front of us, and, the awful things happening. And so I think that what I'm trying to say is that really, I think that you have to see this in the context of just understanding that these probably are the last years of Charles's life.
And he's gone further on with that on his Substack, Rafe, writing, "The Harry-Charles reconciliation makes a lot of sense if you understand King Charles is dying. Prince Harry's long overdue meeting with his father yesterday is best understood as a subplot to the grander narrative of impending succession." But again, this just makes me feel repulsed by Harry. Repulsed. This is your father. He is the King of England. He's agreed to see you. All he wants is to see and have a relationship with his grandchildren before he dies. And you're making that difficult for him. I mean, the fact, Rafe, that he thinks that this is ever going to endear him again to the British public. And I know we've had this big performance this week from Harry, which has just made me cringe. I think it's been awful, actually. He's like a man baby. But it's like, what we will never forget, Rafe, is that you made the Queen's life miserable in her final years, Prince Philip's life miserable in his final years. Now you are doing the same to your goddamn father. It's unforgivable.
Well, I was just going to say it's unforgivable, but precisely that. It's unforgivable and it's unnecessary. And I'll tell you why it's so unforgivable, particularly because the royal family make private visits all the time around the world that we aren't aware of.
Yes.
Her late Majesty the Queen loves horses. She was going to Kentucky all the time to go and see horse breeders out there. We were never aware of that. His Majesty has just been in Scotland. My God, Harry with his family could get on a private jet. They could go to Canada even to do a change of plane or whatever, but they could fly to Scotland. Nobody would see them take off. Nobody would see them land. They would get into their vehicles with, shielded windows and go straight to Balmoral or Birkhall, and they could be home, and nobody would even have been aware that they had been in the country. There is no excuse for not taking your children to see their sickly grandfather.
100%, 100%. Now, can we just talk about Harry's performance this week? Because, again, he thinks that he's being really clever, right? He thinks that what he's doing is overshadowing Prince William and sort of proving that the world loves the idea of this cheeky, chappy prince. And it's like, let's see if there's a way to tap into what the British public used to like about Harry. Personally, and remember, I'm pretty much the same age as William, so not that far off from Harry. Personally, I'm like looking at him thinking, you're acting like you're 21. You've got to grow up. This is mortifying. And he went to the Swell Child Awards, Rafe, and he made a joke in front of a very unwell young man called Declan Bitmead, who'd actually won this Inspirational Young Person Award, about his family. And I thought it was so awful. Harry asked him, because this young man told him that he had a brother. And Harry asked him, does he drive you mad? And Declan replied, no, we get on fine. Harry replied, you know what, siblings. Then when told his brother went to the same school, Harry said, you're at the same school. That sometimes makes it more challenging. Now, this poor young guy, Declan, clearly found the whole thing uncomfortable, We know what Harry was trying to do, make headlines, given his feud with William. And I found it very uncomfortable. And then there's a couple of little pieces of footage too, which again, I think just show how immature Harry is. Watch this. But first, did you know that low libido is often a sign that your body is out of balance, and poor sleep and chronic stress are two of the biggest culprits? When you're underslept, your levels of testosterone, estrogen, and dopamine all drop, crushing your mood, energy, and sex drive. Add elevated cortisol to the mix, the stress hormone that spikes when you're burned out, and your body goes into survival mode. It shuts down everything non-essential, including desire. Your body isn't broken, it's just exhausted. That's why I use Evening Bean by Verso. It's made with clinically studied ingredients shown to reduce stress and anxiety, lower cortisol, and calm the nervous system. It also supports your body's natural ability to regulate hormones, improve mood, and even boost libido. Because when you sleep better, your whole body functions better, including the systems that support connection and intimacy. After taking Evening Bean, I see myself being able to fall asleep faster and stay asleep all night. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I can fall back to sleep. So click the link in the show description or head on over to evening.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken at checkout to save 15% on your first order. Try Evening Bean tonight. Wake up feeling refreshed tomorrow. That's evening.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken at checkout and you will save 15%. But now, back to the show.
Said for many years that I still have a child inside of me.
Have you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother.
Does he drive you mad or does he not?
No, we get along fine.
And it's like, grow up. I mean, I just feel like this whole strategy is wrong.
Yeah, well, he is immature. He is a child. You know, it's the tiaras and tantrums are what you expect from social media influencers in their 20s, not from a prince of the realm and a soldier, an experienced soldier in his, in his 40s. This is a man who is essentially a middle-aged child. He has not accepted that he's middle-aged, and he simply can't help himself. There he is trying to mend bridges with his father, with his majesty, at the same time having a dig at his brother, and he can't help it. I mean, that goes to show the level of immaturity. And just remember, when his recently failed court case against His Majesty's government, the first member of the royal family to take his father's government to court, he was hoping till the 11th hour that the king would step in magically on his side. I mean, a completely dreamlike fantasy world that he lives in. Look, we know that he is a bird in a gilded cage in California. He hates his life. He's living in Meghan's world. All his social contacts are Meghan's contacts. She's got what she wanted to out of the relationship. She's now mixing with A-listers, or at least B or C listers.
Yeah, more like Z-listers these days.
Yeah, but she's got her wannabe Martha Stewart show going. Whatever she's going to get out of the monarchy, she has. He can only be a prince or a polo player or a soldier. And none of those can he be in America. And I think he deeply regrets what's happened. And he wishes he hadn't had what happened over the last few years and that he remained here. And this is his attempt to remind us of the old Harry. But I'm sorry, far too much water has gone under that bridge. He's made his bed, and now I'm afraid he has to lie in it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think while Prince William, Rafe, keeps his position on Harry, the public will keep our position. Do you see what I think the public feel a lot of loyalty to William and Catherine after the past couple of years. And I think we view what Harry put these two through at such a terrible time in their life as close to unforgivable, actually. So as far as I'm concerned, and I don't mean to be cruel at all to Charles, but really the decisions that he makes about Harry are going to end up being irrelevant at some point in the future, because William wants this guy in exile. And at some point, Rafe, he will have the power to ensure that that is the case. And I mean, I'm constantly told that as it stands, William doesn't even want to have Harry at his coronation, which would be a huge call.
Yes, well, look, what we're talking about here is the rapprochement between a father and an estranged son. It's a deeply personal family matter. What you're talking about absolutely is about the succession to the throne, and it's about the monarchy as an institution. And certainly in no context, even if the king was overjoyed to see his son, is there any path back for the Duke of Sussex? So yes, whatever happens with His Majesty the King, certainly the doors to the drawbridge has been lifted to the castle, and is not coming down for Prince Harry at any point.
Well, what a day of news, Rafe. What a day of news. No one who I would rather discuss it with more than you. And of course, you should follow Rafe Hadelman-Koo on YouTube for much more of his analysis. He is also a senior fellow at the brilliant New Culture Forum and a broadcaster and historian. Rafe, so good to have you today.
Thanks so much, Dan.
And thank you for all of your feedback today, all of your super chats. I mean, I've been looking at them throughout and they've really been heartening. Abita says, I just want to say rest in peace to Charlie Kirk and Erina Zarutska. The Be Kind left showing their true face. I will be down at the Freedom Rally on the 13th of September. We all stand by Charlie Kirk. Funky Junkie says, thank you. Please stay safe, Tommy Robinson, and anyone who is standing up to corruption. I would be there on Saturday, but I was butchered by a surgeon. Oh my God. Well, I hope you're okay. But, I've got news on that coming tomorrow. We've got very exciting news coming tomorrow. If you cannot be at the United Kingdom, the rally on Sunday, this is where you're going to, on Saturday, sorry, this is where you're going to need to be. But I'm going to tell you all about that tomorrow. Biological Female says Piers Morgan has some front. Sussex Guy says we had a 16-year-old schoolboy murdered yesterday at our local train station in Seaford. The murderer was also 16. What TF, I know what you mean there, has happened to this generation? Private Jose says absolutely disgusting the way the left speak about Charlie. These people need to be arrested and sent to prison ASAP. Rest in peace, Charlie. You will be missed. And DD says, we are all Charlie. R.I.P. my Christian brother. Thank you so much to Nina Vanava, who believes that all three of our Union Jackass nominees are evil people, and we're going to come to them very shortly. Other comments here. Paige Adair says, people who can't stand dissent and must silence voices in any way possible are cowards and simpleton. Charlie was a great man and a great voice. They still didn't silence him. They still haven't won. Paul Lockwood. The left will not be able to get away with this. Our leaders must be held accountable for their language. Very similar, Paul, to what Donald Trump said in the Oval Office last night. Lind Kent said, murdered with a microphone in hand. Let's not forget the words of common sense. Truth is now being taken. Let's carry Charlie Kirk's words forward. And Susie Emily says, sorry, Dan, this is making me too effing angry. These people are sick. Not sick as in disgusting, although that is also the case, but sick in their head, mentally sick. I have to say I agree. I saw a post on X from someone saying, we didn't act like this. When Joe Cox was murdered, we were horrified. Or when Gabby Giffords was shot in the head in the US, we were horrified. There is a deep evil sickness running amongst the left and the people who are celebrating what happened to Charlie Kirk today, and it's very, very worrying sign. Thank you so much for all of your feedback today. Now let's reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. A reminder of your nominees. Bushra Sheikh, nominated by Sarah Booth for her despicable reaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Prince Harry, nominated by Rose Juni for turning the Well Child Awards to be all about promoting his showmanship or lack thereof. And Joy Cheney, nominated by CJ Edmund, the BBC contributor that laughed at Charlie Kirk's death. Okay, the results are now in. In third place with 13% of the vote, Joy Cheney. The runner-up with 36% of the vote, Bushra Sheikh. But today's Union Jackass, Prince Harry. Now, he is going to go head-to-head with our other Union Jackasses from across the week. Let me just remind you of who they were. On Tuesday, Shabnam Mahmood. On Wednesday, Peter Mandelson. Well, that's quite a lineup, isn't it? Shabnam Mahmood versus Peter Mandelson versus Prince Harry. to be named the worst Britain in the world this week. We will announce it at the end of last week, at the end of tomorrow's show, but you're going to be able to vote straight after today's show in the posts tab on YouTube. Hope that makes sense. But today's greatest Britain is an honorary, but there could only be one choice. Nominated by Real McCass, who writes, "It goes without saying, but today's GB should be honorary and dedicated to Charlie Kirk after his brutal murder. He lived life to fight for free speech everywhere. He cared about Britain. His death will not be in vain. We collectively must fight for free speech and win. And fight for Charlie Kirk we will, and fight for this United Kingdom we will. And do be back with us tomorrow because Tommy Robinson has some big news to reveal about uniting the kingdom, which we will do on tomorrow's show. But we're moving on to Substack now. For my conversation with Lady Colin Campbell, you can sign up at www.outspoken.live. All of the big royal news of the day with Lady C. You know you love her. You know you love her. As a personal ask, I would also love it if you could sign up to my podcast as well. This really helps me on the podcast platforms, especially, by the way, if you are able to do that thing and rate and review. I'm an independent outfit. I don't have any of those big companies backing me. They do lots of things to, pull the strings of the algorithm and all that. So if you can just go onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're on video on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, search for Dan Wootton Outspoken, rate and review. It would be a little favor to me and I'd be ever so grateful. But I am so grateful for your company today. I'm not going to lie. I've found the past 20 hours so difficult, but we have a job to do and we will keep on doing that job and we will keep on doing it together.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.